thank you for joining us today for the next session of 20 for 20 in 2020, which is a series that I began to help people determine what professionals they would like to work with. And I will be interviewing 20 professionals, asking them 20 questions, and getting this all done before the end of 2020, which, as we know, is coming quickly. Anyway, I'm Ella Newman, and I'm a trusted insurance advisor with the Norton Advisory Group, and I specialize in helping people with effective solutions to dealing with estate planning, business succession planning, retirement, long-term care, and other insurance planning concerns to meet the goals that are important in their lives. And my point in these sessions is to help you choose the right professionals to, again, reach your goals. And today I am thrilled to have Julia Hoagland, who is a realtor running her own team with Campus, a prestigious real estate firm in Manhattan. And I have known Julia for many years. I had started a networking group a long time ago, and she was kind enough to let us meet in her offices at Park Avenue. And it actually got integrated into the name of the networking group, which we were part of for many years. But we've stayed in touch, and in the meantime, she's done extremely well and is one of the top realtors in New York and always a go-to person. And what I find exciting about her in terms of when I refer people to her is her background started in electrical engineering, and then she has so many years of experience in an MBA in and knows so much about real estate and her approach. In fact, I recently had to recommend her to someone who I knew would really relate to her because her husband has a PhD in physics. So what a perfect match, right? In any case, we're going to start by getting these questions going. But of course, we're in the middle of a pandemic. And I can't imagine, Julia, how it is to be working on real estate in Manhattan in this environment and showing people property. So how are you coping with all this?
We're doing okay. Thank you so much for having me, Ella. It's a pleasure always to be with you. They say that tough times in any business make you develop strong muscles, and that's what we're doing now. It is a tough time in business. We're dealing with different things, COVID paperwork, and having to go through a lot of extra steps with buildings and the rules to keep safe, which we're happy to do. And we're looking for the silver linings for when it's very much a buyer's market in Manhattan, which does not happen very often.
Very interesting. Okay, well, now we're going to get started with our 20 questions. So the first question is, what led you to this career path?
I was curious, for one, and looking for a change. I had been in finance for 8 years working in structured credit, and that followed my electrical engineering career that you alluded to earlier. And I got laid off 2 months before I got married. And my husband and I took the opportunity to travel for a year for our honeymoon. And when I got back, having a very supportive husband, he let me sort of explore some different areas because I was never really excited about going back to finance. I liked the work, but I didn't love the work. I wasn't passionate about it. So it was curiosity and desire for change that led me here.
That's terrific. Mm-hmm. And now that you are there, how did you get to work at the current firm that you're at?
So a lot of people don't realize that real estate agents are, by and large, across the country, independent contractors. And so we run our own businesses. And many of us choose to license the platform of larger firms like Compass. And before Compass, I was with Brown Harris Stevens, and before Brown Harris Stevens, Corcoran. And I got to Compass 6 years ago. I was recruited by the CEO when they were starting the firm, and they didn't have a brand, and he recruited me because I did have a brand, and he wanted my brand to help his brand grow, which we did.
That's fantastic. Well, that's very exciting. Mm-hmm. Now, Do you have any special credentials or designations that you brought to this position?
Well, I have my undergraduate and graduate degrees, the EE and the MBA, and then I have a New York residential specialist designation, which is a higher order advanced designation that the Real Estate Board of New York gives after a certain amount of classwork. I have a certified negotiation expert designation, and also a counselor in real estate designation, which is something I'm very proud of because it's quite it's hard to get one. There are very few residential real estate agents that have them, and it took me quite a long time and quite an intensive application process to get in, but it's evidence of the approach that my team and I bring to the business in terms of counseling clients on real estate investments.
That's really important. I think that's very effective to know that, and I'm glad you shared that with us. That's really a very nice thing to know that your person you're working with has available to offer. Now, when you're working as the way you work, is there someone in your organization that is backing you up on what you're doing for the client?
As they say, it does take a village. I have, in addition to my husband and my friends, my family, my mentors, which are sort of on the in the background. My team is 8 people, and they're very much backing up every client transaction that we close or work on and close. We have a team of salespeople. We have an operations administrator dedicated to that team of salespeople. We have my executive assistant, which helps me coordinate things like this, talk with you. And yeah, so definitely our entire team, plus of course the people in my life that I care about and who care about me.
That's terrific. So you sound like you have a very solid force behind you. Now,
Indeed.
in terms of the areas you focus on, what is the price ranges that you seem to specialize in? Is there sort of a range?
Our sweet spot, as it were, if we had our choice all day, every day, we do transactions between $3 and $10 million. Those are it's a nice size commission check. We get paid based on a percent of the sales price. And it's also, it seems to be a little less infused with drama when it's not, such a high value transaction. But again, some of the lower value transactions can also have their share of personality input, as it were. So in practice, because we take such an analytical approach to the business based on my background, we can add value to transactions where we have knowledge of the buildings, of the areas, and where we have data. And for us, that's all over the price spectrum, $250,000 studios to $100 million penthouses, and all over Manhattan and into Western Brooklyn.
Right. Oh, well, that's broad. That's terrific. Yeah. So pretty much you've got a broad market to work with there.
Yeah.
How many first-time buyers have you been able to work with in the course of a particular year? Do you have a lot of first-time buyers, or what's your typical client like?
We have, in the last year, I counted, we've worked with or are working with about 20 first-time home buyers.
Wow.
We do 50 to 60 transactions in a normal year. This is not quite a normal year, as we all know. But yeah, I would say, more or less half of those transactions are with buyers, and probably half of those transactions, so a quarter of our overall transactions, are with first-time buyers.
Ah, very interesting. Uh-huh. Now, if do you need them to provide you with, do they ask you to provide them with references? And do you have specific people that you use as references, or if they ask you?
Absolutely happy to provide references. Often the way that we find these buyers is through people who we've closed deals with. So that's a reference right there that is provided by virtue of introduction. Right. But yes, we're very happy to provide references if anyone needs them.
Right. And I think I noticed some nice ones on your site online as well.
Thank you.
No surprise. Okay. I'd refer you.
You have.
Absolutely. How will you find the right property for someone, and what is your process?
We ask a lot of questions to start out, and often people don't know what they're looking for when they start out. They think they know, but they're not educated yet. And so our goal is to always educate our clients to the largest extent that we can. And that, of course, there's usually a price point that people have in mind that does tend to shrink or expand as the process unfolds, depending on what people see. And people have a location specification in mind, but we can say, well, it's great if you like this location, you might also like these. And if they say yes, great. And if they say no, that's fine too. We just want to make sure we're giving them as wide a set of information as we can so they can make fully informed decisions.
Well, that sounds like an appropriate approach, and it would be very comfortable to know that. Yeah, that's great. What would you say 3 things are that separate you from other agents?
Excuse me. Our analytical approach is one. The maybe not so much of a secret is that not many people grow up wanting to be a real estate agent, believe it or not. And so one of the most colorful things about my industry is that everyone that I work with, as far as colleagues, almost all of them have a career prior to real estate, or 2 in my case, or 3. And so we all bring a different set of skills to the table. And some people bring everyone brings something different. We bring analytics because of my training and how I've mentored my team. Mm-hmm. So that's one. I also have always thought of, even though we do technically sell real estate, that is my career, I don't think of myself as a salesperson. I find it hard to get someone to spend $5 on something that they don't really want, much less 5 million. So we let the real estate sell itself because it really does. And we work to, as I mentioned in the earlier question, try and provide as comprehensive a set of information as we can to enable people to make fully informed decisions. So yes, the analytical approach, the fact that we're not really selling, and this is a little cliche, but we have a team so that we can provide full court press client service and make sure that we are picking up the calls when people call. We are available to do that because we have a good mix of shared responsibilities in the team, and so everyone has time to do what they're focused on, and that makes clients happy.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. I think that's a great thing to know about you and your team. How do you get paid?
We are paid as a percentage of the sales, as a percentage of the sales price. So the standard commission in New York City is 6%, and that is agreed to between the seller and the seller's agent before listing a property. And the Real Estate Board of New York mandates or regulates that we are required to share commissions with a buyer's agent if there is one. And over 90% of my deals have buyer's agents when I'm on the sell side. And of course, when I'm on the buy side, I am a buyer's agent. So it's really, the commission that is paid for by the seller gets split between buyer's brokerages and seller's brokerages, and then it gets funneled down to us at the agent level.
I see. Oh, that's interesting. Mm-hmm. Now, how do you communicate with your clients? How do you interact?
We ask them how they would like to be communicated with. Everyone has their own style. It's typically, some people prefer phone, others prefer email, others prefer text. Our international clients are WhatsApp. So it often ends up being a combination of, and sometimes WeChat. It often ends up being a combination of those, but we take the client's lead.
Right. That would make sense. And there's so many options these days on how to communicate, right?
True. Smoke signals.
Right, exactly. How long will it take for you to get back to a client if a client is reaching out to you?
If it's a new client, we target maximum 2 business hours. And that's what my team and we have a special filter that we use for new client business to make sure that we're very responsive it's good to make a good first impression. And then as the deal unfolds, we work. My personal comfort level is not to let things go more than 24 hours. Often it's, within a matter of minutes if I happen to be looking at the email, but sometimes we have, other things going on, but yeah, no more than 24 hours.
Well, that's very realistic. That makes sense. Now, if you're out of town, and something comes up, what takes place?
So depending on where I am, I'll have an out of office. If I'm truly on vacation, then I'll have an out of office directing people to my team. There's always more than one of us on every client case, so I'm never the only one that the client knows, and that's from the very beginning, and that is by design. So that it's work-life balance is important to me, and it's important to me that my team also has that. And so we've kind of set it up so that people are able to get out. I do travel quite often in normal years for work. And so I'm gone at a number of conferences each year. I go to Hong Kong once a year to present. I go to Europe for conferences. And so if I'm really not in the same time zone, I'll put an out of office with this will be delayed. Please contact the other members of the sales team. And often clients are already contacting them or copying us all. And so it's hopefully people don't notice that I'm out of town, or they don't even know.
Uh-huh. These days, that very often is the case. People don't really know where you are anyway.
No.
People are,
True.
especially in days of this pandemic, people are working from everywhere and anywhere.
Exactly.
Right. So it's a very different environment, and that's the new world we're in.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it makes sense. Are there any days that you specifically don't work or do work, or particular hours that you work? If people are trying to reach out to you, what's a normal work week like?
I tried to take quote unquote days off a few years back. And I realized as an entrepreneur, as you know, we're kind of on 24/7, 365. When you own your own business, you pretty much have to pay attention to it. It's a baby. It's a living, breathing entity. And so to manage that and not go crazy, I delegated. I really sat down a few years ago and decided what is it that I have truly the most passion for, and that is higher order strategy, analysis, problem solving, higher order negotiation, things that my team can't handle, which is not that much. My team's quite capable. And then of course the business development piece. And so I can do that 7 days a week and not feel overly taxed by it because I am able to delegate so much to my team. So I work 7 days a week, but I don't work 24/7.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that because you'd certainly burn out if you do that.
Exactly.
Can't do that. What if a client wants to buy the home of a seller you're representing? Does that happen?
It has, and it's really interesting. In New York, that's called dual agency, and it is technically legal in New York State. I personally find it to be a conflict. I don't think that you can effectively represent two sides of the same deal. And so I opt out and my team opts out of doing that. And if that situation comes up, we will refer the client, the buyer client, to a trusted agent in our office to conduct the negotiations arm's length with us on the sell side and the buyer on the buy side. And then as soon as the negotiations are finished, assuming that buyer does win, then we can take the buyer back in because then we're on the same side of the deal. So that's how we deal with that.
Yeah, that can get complicated. I can see where that would be a concern.
It's uncomfortable.
Now, what if the client wants to buy the same home as one of your other buyers?
Also a slightly awkward situation, as you can imagine, but it happens. I mean, we want everyone to see everything. So we're not, just because we've shown a property to one of our clients, we're not going to not show it to someone else, because who knows? And if they both end up wanting it, we'll do the same thing. We'll represent the first person who said they want to put an offer in, because that's, we're able to do that without a conflict. For the second one, we'll again explain the situation and say, this is our colleague. We've trusted them with a number of transactions. We want you to be fully represented, and we can't do that because we have this other information from this other client that wants the property. So we'll refer them out, and then whoever wins, we'll work with them going forward.
Sounds complex a bit, but you've got it under control.
Yes.
So how do you resolve conflicts in general? When things that you come across in your business?
I try and listen first. I find that it's very people really want to be heard. I really want to be heard. And so I'll give people a venue to talk, and then I'll hope that they'll give me the venue to talk. And then if, empathy is one of the keys to life, I think. And so I really try and think about things from their perspective, and then be as creative as possible in a solution. And as long as the other side's personality does not prevent it, you can come to, it's basically a democratic solution at the end of the day. Like, everyone wins some, everyone loses some, and you come to a meeting of the minds so that you're both relatively happy but not overjoyed. And everyone walks away satisfied, but there's give and take.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a great answer. Now, what would you say you feel some of the true highlights of your career have been?
I love this question, actually, because it's nice to celebrate the wins. Sometimes we don't do that. Entrepreneurs, again, we're always like going, and forget to sit down and smell the roses when they are sitting in front of us.
Uh-huh.
I'm very proud. The first full year I was in real estate, I was working with the Corcoran Group, and I was the number one agent in the office that I was in. And I was very proud of that. And since 2009, that was 2006, since 2009, my team and I have been number 1, 2, or 3 agent in our office consistently without interruption. So those are 2 things I'm really proud of. And then the CRE designation I was quite proud of, because it was, I wasn't accepted the first round. I wasn't rejected. I was put on kind of probation, and I found 2 mentors, which I'm so grateful for their help, but they really helped me kind of tell my story in a way that, it's a true story, but they helped me tell it in the way that the counselors heard it. And going back to that listening, it really made a difference, and I have a designation now.
That's fantastic. Lots to be proud of.
Thank you.
Fantastic. What are some problems and issues that you help your clients address?
We have a specialty niche in repositioning stale properties, properties that have been on the market for some time with another broker and haven't sold. Often it's about price, but it's often not only about price. And the 3 pillars of successfully maximizing value are marketing, exposure, and pricing. And with the marketing and the presentation, we have a particular eye for presenting, and we call it staging, but it doesn't mean taking everything out and moving a whole bunch of rented furniture, and that's not what we're talking about. It's more ideally using what you have and augmenting it with a few small, low-cost, high-impact items, and often taking out maybe a third of the things in the apartment so people can see the real estate as opposed to being distracted by what's in it. So yeah, we help our clients solve problems of stale listings in that sense. We also have a specialty niche in loft properties, downtown loft properties, because it's where I cut my teeth. I started in downtown Corcoran office, and I sold a lot of lofts. And there's, they have very unique attributes because they weren't made for residential habitation originally. They were made for manufacturing use. And so there's, different, where are the plumbing stacks, and how do you get furniture in the little tiny elevators? And some of the egress is actually through the neighbor's apartment in the back, which is not everyone's okay with it. And then artists and residents rules. So we're able to navigate that sector of the market fairly deftly just because of the experience.
Well, that's certainly different. Yeah, that's very interesting. So we're up to our last question, which is my non-career question. It's about what would if somebody looked you up on the internet and wanted to know something they couldn't find out on the internet about you, what would that information be?
I own a 1996 Harley Davidson Sportster.
Oh, that's cool.
Hugger. I don't advertise that, but it is something that I've always loved motorcycles from the time that I was a little kid. I remember being very fascinated by them. I would ask my older classmates if I could ride their dirt bikes, and in 1996 I bought myself a present and it was a new Harley Davidson, and I still have it today.
Wow, that's fantastic, and certainly we would not have guessed that. I used to, as a young adult, before I got married, I used to ride them with somebody.
Oh, really?
But not be the driver of one. But that's
That can
about
be
as
fun.
close as I got to it. I thought it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that ends our session pretty much. Could you tell our audience what the best way to get in touch with you would be? We've learned a lot of wonderful things about you. Thank you for
Thank
sharing that. So
you.
now tell them how they would reach out.
Well, as you mentioned, my name is Julia Hoagland. I can be reached by cell, which is call or text 646-696-1372, or jhoagland@compass.com.
That's fantastic. Okay, well, I said, I may not have actually said it, but I did want to remind people that in the insurance world these days, there are a lot of changes taking place that they need to think about because of these low interest rates and all that's been going on. If they are interested in using insurance in any aspect of their financial situations, they should take action now, probably before year end, or certainly review what insurance they may be currently holding because there have been a lot of changes and we need to take a look at that. So I'm offering people a free fiduciary review of their insurance, and we obviously would do that virtually. You can reach out to me at ella@nortonadvisorygroup.com, and I would be happy to set up an appointment for that. Also, I think I urge everyone to look at Julia's website. We've learned a lot about her. She's been great. And you look at my website as well, at Norton Advisory Group, to find out more about us and our backgrounds and the things we do. And I will be posting this video probably on LinkedIn, and you might see it in other spaces as well. And I want you to look for the next session of 20 for 20 in 2020. And in the meantime, stay healthy and also remember to vote. And thank you, Julia, for joining us.
Thank you.
And everyone stay well. Thank you.